It is an amazing delight to be here with you tonight. I am so grateful to have a chance to be back in the presence of Lee Curtis. Lee was one of my right hand, left hand, and many other hands persons in the Diocese of Atlanta when I was working with the Commission for Dismantling Racism. And when he announced that he was coming here, I was really, really glad for him because he deserved to have a job that paid him enough money to live. But I was very, very sorry for us in Atlanta, and I'm still sorry. We miss you so much, Lee. And I'm so glad to be here with you. And glad to be in this space, glad to be at Forma for the first time. I try to avoid doing dismantling racism workshops as much as I can. I have a group of people who do that in Atlanta. But dear Easton Davis, who's our campus missioner and youth missioner in Atlanta, hooked me into being here yesterday, and I'm delighted that I had that opportunity. I'm not preaching on any of the words that you just heard. So I'm going to read to you the scripture from Genesis. Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him from a distance, and before he came near to them, they conspired to kill him. They said to one another, "Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we shall say that a wild animal has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams." So I think most of you know that we just celebrated Dr. King's birthday. I hope there's not anybody in the room who doesn't know that. And it's very interesting to think about Dr. King and ourselves and how we like to think and talk about him now, which is way different from the way we thought about him and talked about him when he was actually here. And so many of the people who rush out to celebrate him now would not have given him the time of day when he was living. And actually, that's the way it is with folks who have dreams and visions and people who are called to call us to something deeper than just the kind of run-of-the-mill life. So I don't know if you're like me, but I've gotten really tired of hearing sermons. I've gotten really tired of hearing people try to be smart, try to think of a new way, a new twist, a new turn for something. I think that the day has come to get down to the core and to figure out what we really care about and what we really have the courage to do. There is no excuse for us being where we are in the United States of America today. Amen. There is no excuse. Amen. And every one of us has to take a deep, long look at ourselves and ask, how did my behavior, my way of thinking, my way of being, my unconsciousness, my slackness, my whatever, contribute to making this day? I think if we will pay attention to what it really means to have a dream, what does it involve? How does it make you live? When there is something that's deep inside of you that pushes you down the road that you need to travel on, and oftentimes people around you don't really have a clue of what that road is or why you're on it. We live in a culture that's taught us that we need to try to be like each other. You know, we gotta look like, you gotta have this particular look, you've gotta be, live in the right kind of house, have the right kind of car, have the right kinds of things, so you can be all right. And even those of us who think we're radical find ourselves caught in that trap of we want to dress shabby, but we want to be chic about it. You know, We want to live simply, but it takes a lot of money to achieve our simplicity, right? So we get caught. We're caught. So if we can get some distilling going on in our own souls, so we get down to the core message. What is at your core? Have you been there lately? To take a good look. We get so caught up. We get caught up with being the church. So caught up until we forgot about Jesus. We get so caught up in all of our plans, our ways of teaching and the things we need, the materials and all that stuff. And we kind of lose sight of what is it all really about. So when the day is over, and when you're sitting somewhere all by yourself, what is your life about? What are you about? You know, Bill was teasing me yesterday, telling me, you know, you've become a legend in the church. And I said, well, that's news to me. I don't even know what that means. A whole lot of folks have heard me talk about race, and people always expect that I'm gonna talk about race, and I am gonna talk about race a little bit, because it does have a lot to do with getting to the core of being who we really are and who we were put here to be. It is past time for us to keep on playing this little game up here on the surface about racial healing. It's past time. The day's over. We are in this country right this minute headed to civil war because we have failed to do the work that we need to do. And we all in this room are people who say we have faith and we follow Jesus. And we have some responsibility to try to see if we can do something to prevent a civil war. That's a part of the dream that God has for us. I don't consider myself capable of speaking for God, but I know that God does not like war. And God did not make us to be the people that we have become, with all of those distance and the particular ways we have to be, keeping us from really seeing each other as sisters and brothers. You know, you gotta look right to me first, and you gotta smell right, and you gotta talk right. And we can be really stuck up in this church. You know, I have gone to churches where people didn't know who I was, and they didn't bother to try to find out. Because, I don't know, I didn't have the right vibrations or something. I don't know what it was, really. I didn't go back to ask. So I want to know, what do you dream about? What is your heart's greatest desire when it comes to your having been on this planet? What is your dream? Martin Luther King listened to his heart and listened and responded to the call upon his life. But that work that he ended up doing for that short time that he was on this earth was not the only dream he had. He dreamed about being a pastor in a church somewhere and having a normal life. He dreamed about that. But there was a bigger dream. There was a more compelling dream, the dream to go out and resist oppression and darkness. And he said yes to it. So I don't know who all of you are. I've been with some of you, but I can make some guesses because you're people like me. And I think you are in that same boat as Dr. King, with conflicting notions inside your head and heart, having to decipher, having to figure stuff out a little bit. We don't make a lot of space for people to do that work. We want you to be definite and sure, and we want you to be productive We need to make more space for people to dig deep, to explore, to try to make sure you're listening to the best voice you can hear out of your soul. The church ought to be a place where that happens, where it's encouraged, where you can come into the space and have conversations about wondering if this is the right course or that's the right course or whatever. But we're not very good at wanting to hear those conversations. We kind of want to make sure that you really got it together and you're going to help us keep this agenda that we have going. God might be calling you to do something that's contrary. It would be a little contrary for us to decide that we want to get rid of racism. Right? And what does that mean? That some people have to share some power that they don't want to share. That some people have to change. Some white people have to give up something. The misunderstanding of supremacy. Some people of color have to give up something. The misunderstanding of oppression and its limitations and the message of limitations that has come from the oppressor to us. We have to be willing to let go of those places where we have found comfort and joy in supremacy and in oppression. We have to be willing to say yes to a new dream. If you begin to dream like that and begin to act like that, you'll be like Joseph with your brothers and sisters looking at you funny. They might not try to kill you, but they will look at you funny. But we are invested in not being funny looking, which is what we are supposed to be, is funny looking. Jesus was kind of funny looking, always doing kind of funny looking stuff, right? I find myself being preoccupied with, my kids laugh about this with me too, because they think I'm going to be 73 next month, and I'm so willing to go be something I've never been before. So they're always thinking that I'm going to end up buying a motorcycle or something, which I don't plan to do. You still ride your motorcycle? Oh, good. But I find myself being preoccupied with wondering if, I don't want God to call me to be as crazy as John the Baptist. I don't mind being a little radical, a little crazy, but I want to have some place where I can fit. God's not interested in that. God is interested in me dreaming as big as I can dream, listening to the call of the heart to go and be outrageous. So you're all here for this conference, and you do all kinds of things where you have come from. And I'm really glad you're here. I'm really glad you do what you do. But I want to ask you tonight to look yourself in the face at the deepest level and make sure that you have said yes to the right questions. To make sure that you have said yes to the right dreams. Because we need people who are not afraid to do what they need to do to make this earth what it was intended to be. And if you are afraid, you might be doing the wrong thing. Because God will give you the courage to do what you need to do. I believe that. I've been running around in the world doing stuff that I wasn't supposed to do. I wasn't supposed to have a dream because I was a little black girl that grew up in Arkansas with the message of little black girl, find your place and stay in it. And my parents reinforced that notion because they didn't want me to get killed. And I said, I don't know that I believe that's the right word. And so when I moved from California, I moved from Arkansas to California, went to school and moved to Georgia. Every time I would call my mother, she'd say, where are you? Because she knew I was in jail. She just was that worried. I didn't understand that so much until I had a kid of my own, but I understand why she was worried. It was not an intention to cause my mother trouble. It was not an intention to be anything except, you know what? I had done this funny thing. I had said yes to Jesus way back there. A little girl being baptized in a mud hole at a Baptist church saying yes to Jesus ends up doing things that you're not supposed to do, because that's what that means. So we kind of confuse people and make them think that saying yes to Jesus is a call to comfort. Saying yes to Jesus is a call to having all your dreams for materialism and power and stature manifested. Isn't that part of what the message is out there? You come follow this God and do what we say, and you'll have this rip-roaring, wonderful, culturally reinforcing life. I don't know where that idea came from, because I've been reading this Bible for a long time, and I didn't see that story. The story I saw was open yourself up to the biggest dreams. Open your heart to the best message, and let yourself see where God takes you. So I want to read you a poem that I love poetry. I love David Whyte. I don't know if you know David Whyte, but David Whyte's a poet who says that poetry is a language against which there is no defense. And we need language against which there is no defense, because we use language to keep us from listening. And we use language in all kinds of ways that we don't have any business using it. But listen to this. My uncourageous life doesn't want to go, doesn't want to speak, doesn't want to carry on, doesn't want to make its way through stealth, wants to assume the strange and dubious honor of not being heard. My uncourageous life doesn't want to move, doesn't even want to stir, wants to inhabit a difficult form of stillness, to pull everything into the silence where the throat strains but gives no voice. My uncourageous life wants to stop the whole world and keep it stopped, not only for itself, but for everyone and everything it knows, refusing to stir a single inch until given an exact and final destination. This uncourageous second life wants to win some undiscovered lottery so that it can finally bestow a just and final reward upon itself. No, this second life never wants to write, speak, or cook, or set the table, or welcome guests, or sit up talking with a stranger who might accidentally set us traveling again. This second life doesn't want to leave the door, doesn't want to take any path that works its own sweet way through mountains, doesn't want to follow the beckoning flow of a distant river that might nor meet the chance weather where a path takes it from one discovered world to another. This second life just wants to lie down, close its eyes, and tell God it has a headache. But my other life, my first life, the life I admire and want to follow, looks on and listens with some wonder, and even extends a reassuring hand for the one holding back, knowing there can be no real confrontation without the need to turn away and go back away from it all, to have things be different, and to close our eyes until they are different. No, this hidden life, this first courageous life, seems to speak from silence and in the language of a knowing, beautiful heartbreak. Above all, it seems to know well enough it will have to give back everything received in any form, and even sometimes, as it tells the story of the way ahead, laughs out loud in the knowledge. This first life seems sure and steadfast in knowing it will come across the help it needs. This first life seems sure and steadfast in knowing it will come across the help it needs at every crucial place, and thus continually sharpens my sense of impending revelation. This first courageous life, in fact, has already gone ahead, has nowhere to go except out the door, into the clear air of morning, taking me with it. Nothing to do except to breathe while it can. No way to travel but with that familiar pilgrim movement in the body. Nothing to teach except to show me on the long road how we sometimes like to walk alone, open to the silent revelation, and then stop and gather and share everything as dark comes in, telling the story of a day's accidental beauty. And perhaps most intriguingly and most poignantly and most fearfully of all, and at the very end of the long road it has traveled, it wants to take me to a high place from which to see with a view looking back on the way we took to get there, so it can have me understand myself as witness and thus bequeath me the way ahead, so it can teach me how to invent my own disappearance, so it can lie down at the end and show me, even against my will, how to undo myself, how to surpass myself, how to find a way to die of generosity. Dream. Dream big, dream well. Pay attention. Be faithful. Be a half a shade braver. Amen.